Hey there, YouTube crew. It is I, Dan, aka Smash O Mash, coming at you once again with the daily space and Earth weather stream. I'll also be talking about how I'd rather be a hammer than a nail, which is it's a song that my granddad used to sing back in the day, and it's about how one would prefer to take action than to have action taken upon him. So go out and do things. Did you know that you can just go out and do stuff, folks? It's amazing. You don't need anybody's permission or anything, generally speaking. And you can just go out and do stuff. It's incredible. Like there's all kinds of stuff that you can do. So you should do the stuff. I mean, you might be watching the YouTube right now, but some of the stuff you should do involves, I don't know, making YouTube content. Become a YouTube video producer like us and put out videos like this live stream. And we'll thank you for it. We might even press share because you have something interesting to share, talk about, document, film, put theories out about, etc. There's something interesting that you do very well, probably. So why not make a YouTube channel? It's highly recommended. What we don't recommend you do is put a bunch of trash sludge slop sludge trash on your channel. That seems like it's an increasingly terrible idea. So anyway, I'd rather be a hammer than a nail. What about you? Seems like a very bad idea to pick the nail, wouldn't you say? But bear with me, I'll be right back. I'll rant about some things, and then I'll talk about Earth and space weather, give you all the info about stuff like sunspots, coronal holes, magnetic fields, incoming CMEs, coronal hole high-speed streams, Earth weather, forecasts for snow, and more, like the jet streams. So bear with me, press the share button, leave a comment, tell your friends and foes about the channel. We need your assistance to get the content out there. And click the links in the description. You can find us all over social media, on the homepage, smashomash.com, links to the Discord channel, links to the Redbubble shop, which, by the way, the prices are going to go up at the Redbubble shop before spring. And we're less than 3 weeks from spring now, folks. Welcome to March. You've survived yet another winter month. So congrats on that. And hi, Sprnicki _ crew 59383. Hi. Be right back, y'all. Today I'm making a massive pot of bean soup. Yes. We had some black beans and some lentils that were open, and so I'll probably make two things. I'll probably make a big old pot of soup, as well as, look at that, it's massive. Massive pot of beans, which has been soaking for about maybe 18 hours now, something like that. So we're gonna make a massive beef broth based bean soup because we've got stock from making beef roasts. And so yeah, there's that. We have the kit to make French onion soup too, so I might even make a batch of French onion soup along with the bean soup. And then I might even make some bean salad as well, because that's a lot of beans. That's and it doesn't amount to a hill of beans. But you're free to go do stuff, and like that stuff is a lot more than just typing YouTube comments. You too can create a YouTube channel. You too can be a YouTube creator. It's just a matter of something that you're super interested in or something that you're well versed in. Just start a channel, start ranting about it. Don't put any AI trash sludge slop junk in there, and people will tune the hell in. Like as long as you don't have AI trashware, slop, junk, sludge in your channel, people will tune in. I mean, there are many, many channels out there that I just look at them now and I go, ew, that looks like AI slop, sludge, trash. AI doesn't write our scripts. AI doesn't make the videos. AI doesn't edit anything. Doesn't make our thumbnails. Although occasionally we do put AI trash out there, since a lot of people have fallen victim to the fraud. A lot of people have invested in the massive fraud that is AI, and I'm sick of it. It's ruining the internet, and the internet is the internet will not be taken down by AI. If anything, the internet will take down the AI, not vice versa, because even though over half the users are now bots, and probably half the posts out there are AI trashware bots. It's pretty. So yeah, Verity's 1923 Gen Xers getting into the YouTube and the TikTok. We're not into the TikTok, but I am a Gen Xer, and this channel's been monetized for 7 years now. So we're not like just getting into it. We've been doing this a long time. It's the world's most comprehensive daily space weather videos. So, over the past 7 years, nobody's covered the level of detail that we have. And nobody's been any better at forecasting space weather than we have, including NOAA, NASA, ESA, etc. So, we all have about a 30% margin of error, folks. And that's what makes it worthwhile. Earth weather is far too easy to forecast. You have access to the internet, therefore you have access to a lot more data than you actually need to be able to make shockingly accurate Earth weather forecasts. So, since Earth weather is far too easy, folks, that's part of the reason why we went to space weather, but also just simply because there was no substantially good content. There are no daily space weather videos that are tolerable for me to watch on YouTube. So there's certain data that I wanted to look at, so that's why we made the channel, because I wanted to see the data on a bigger screen, essentially, and that's pretty much how the channel came into existence. I said, ew, these videos that are out there about space weather are trash. Not AI trash, human-made trash. And they're full of pseudoscience and nonsense and all kinds of ridiculous theories that don't purport to actual science, and that shit pisses me off. So that's like sort of the origin of the channel. The origin of the name Smash-O-Mash actually came from gaming. But there are your comments on the screen. Here's the sun for this is the past 12 hours. And we'll put your comments back up here momentarily. Let me just flatten out my tripod so it stops moving around. That's a little better. All right, and pardon the guerrilla style filming techniques. A nice try at YouTube terms conditions. I think you're talking utter nonsense. So yeah, way to put alarmist crap in the chat, you phony. Pretty sure that's not the real YouTube. That's just a phony account. So shove it. All right, so let's take a look at the closest star here from SDO's perspective, the Solar Dynamics Observatory. Here's the newest. And we're looking at 94 angstroms along with the HMI instrument. So we've got a number of sunspots here. Looks like the sunspot number will have risen again since our stream yesterday. Let's switch this to 171 angstroms. It's great at showing the middle corona, the transitional region, with active regions and so forth.
Ah, yes. YouTube Terms and Conditions Management. Nice fake account there. Your account will be reported as a fake account. You utter moron. You are a moron. All right. Yes, please press the like button. Tell your friends and foes about the channel. Press share, etc. If you've got something interesting or insightful or even comedic to put in the comments, we encourage it. If you're an imbecile and you want to prove what an imbecile you are in the comments, we encourage that too. Just be aware that we are free speech advocates, real free speech advocates. And so if you make an ass of yourself in the comments, you will be made fun of publicly. That's the price of free speech, folks. The price of free speech. All right. So, cosmic ray flux remains at a 22-year low. We haven't seen levels this low since 2004. So, if somebody's telling you spooky, spooky energy from space is increasing, then they're an idiot. They're either incorrect, mistaken, or they're lying. Either way, they're misrepresenting material facts because energy from space is definitely not increasing unless it's before noontime where you're located. Because if it's before noontime, yeah, energy from space is increasing because it's going to get higher until 12 noon, until the sun's at its apex of its, from your perspective, trip across the ecliptic. So, but beyond that, energy from space is definitely not increasing. Look at cosmic ray flux. You see, doomsday prophets lie, and the data doesn't lie. There it is. Facts. Neutron monitors. Here's our X-ray monitor for one of our cosmic ray point sources, the only known cosmic ray point source, in fact. High mass X-ray binary, a very weird object. A very brutally violent object in the Milky Way galaxy. It's a cosmic ray point source. It's got a plasma jet oriented toward Earth from 32,000 light years away. But these are the X-rays that come out of it, not to be confused with the particles that definitely come out of it. And if you're in the Northern Hemisphere, they go through your head all day. Next, our forecast for CMEs, and it looks like there's one about to miss Earth to the west. This is the Hux forecast from University of Reading. As you can see, there's a CME off there to the west and some more action, but nothing earthly directed, so it's looking pretty chill as Parker Solar Probe comes in for a close pass. All right. And let's see what we have going on. Solar wind right now, quite nominal here, quite slow actually, 43 kilometers a second at a density of 4.3 protons per cubic centimeter. The fields are pretty nominal as well. That's not really noteworthy. 5 nanotesla is the total field with a BZ. That's the vertical component of -5. We've got ASCEND Discover providing data here from L1. That's where that solar wind data is measured, well outside of Earth's magnetosphere. NOAA's not forecasting any incoming space weather. I just pressed refresh there. That is calm conditions in the cards for Earth. Here's the magnetosphere. It's an animation of a model. It is based on a lot of measurements, though. So this is probably somewhat what Earth's magnetosphere looks like right now in terms of the magnetohydrodynamic pressure, which is measured in units called nanopascals. So again, calm conditions for space weather. The sun's still ramping up here as we're seeing increased solar activity. The radio flux currently at about 147 solar flux units. 147 is the F107. That's 147 SFU, solar flux units. That is radio flux density. And here is our sunspot number. Let me press refresh to make sure that's up to date. And all right, so we've leveled off here at, what is that, 80 sunspots? 82 sunspots, we'll say. 81 sunspots. 81, that's a good number. It's a multiple of 9. And here is our coronagraph from the GOES 19. We do have the moon going through the frame there. It's creating a hell of a lot of contrast. Because this is attuned to look at something very dim, the solar corona. So when something very bright like the moon moves through it, it creates some issues. So right in here, you'll see the moon blasting through there. Oh, that's actually the Earth, it looks like. I don't know. I think that's the moon. But yeah, there's a view. That certainly looks like Earth's cloud tops, doesn't it? That frame right there looks very Earth-like. But anyway, it doesn't look like any new CMEs are on the way anyway. So we'll look at stereo A just to sort of verify that, because sometimes you get a stealthy one and the data is there from stereo A. So when that happens, that's good. Let's see if it's happened today. This is how you find stealth coronal mass ejections, folks. Sometimes everybody misses them because they forget to look at stereo A. But if the data's there, why not look? There it is. Something that you'll notice in science is you'll never see a thing you don't look at. You're like, you think people are monitoring everything all the time because reasons. Well, people aren't monitoring everything at all times. It would be nice if they were. And some of us actually are. And some of us don't talk nonsense and propaganda about space weather. But no new CMEs appear to be on the way. Here's where planets are located. Keep in mind, planets do not constitute space weather as we approach the full moon here, which we have the glorious convenience of knowing when we have full moon in Pennsylvania because, well, it happens around midnight. So it's super obvious. Did you know that you can tell by the position of the moon in the sky at the time of day, like what part of the Earth you're on? You can, if you know what it's supposed to look like, you know, like if you see full moon at noontime, you're over in China or something. Anyway, that's where planets are located. Somebody will say, oh, there's a crazy alignment happening with Earth, Mercury, Venus, Saturn, and Neptune or something. And that means a thing or something. I'm just not convinced of any of that because there's no plausible physics to explain this astrological nonsense people claim about planetary alignments. It's a bunch of crap. Did you know that if all of the planets in the entire solar system were aligned with the sun, the gravitational influence would be similar to a ping pong ball? Imagine a ping pong ball sized weight meteorite hitting the Earth. A meteorite with the mass of a ping pong ball. That's what all the planets in alignment amount to in terms of the gravitational influence on Earth. Anyway, there's the GOES proton flux, and it's flatlined. We ain't got no spikes. The GOES X-ray flux here is in a C-class background flux, but it's very low, C1 or so, with only minor other C-class intensifications. So what we do see is active regions. How active are they? Well, we'll get to the magnetic fields in a minute, but let's look at 94 angstroms. The hottest place for a big flare is right here in the northeastern limb because there is an active region that is behind the limb that's probably more magnetically complex than the ones that are on the disk. We'll get to that in a minute. First, some magnetic data. We'll just look at yesterday plus today. Earth is in a South Pole magnetic sector. Nothing new there. No new current sheets coming anytime soon. That's a big South Pole sector dominated by South Pole oriented coronal holes, which we can show you here in 195 angstroms. So these coronal holes over here, these are South Pole oriented coronal holes, and they're coloring the magnetism of the heliosphere. And we appreciate your kind comments about the quality of the channel. Been doing this a while, and this is like a bodily function at this point. By the way, if anybody else would like to report the YouTube terms and conditions dummy who commented and said my account's going to get deactivated if I don't get rid of this live stream, please report that account as a fake account since it's posing as YouTube. It has 7 subs and it says, break the rules, get banned. just ridiculous. Ridiculous, pathetic dummies on the internet who think they've, you know, come up with something hilarious to game the system. Oh, you've spooked me. Oh, I thought it was YouTube threatening me. What an absolute jackass. All right, so anyway, there's our line of sight coronal hole plot, and you can see those South Pole oriented coronal holes. Here the field lines are oriented toward the sun. North Pole oriented coronal holes have field lines oriented toward the Earth, but those are open field lines. They do connect to Earth's magnetosphere. Next are magnetograms. We'll look at ground-based magnetograms here from El Teide, the Teide ground-based observatory at El Teide. It's on a giant volcano in the North Atlantic. All right, so there you go. There's our magnetograms. These are not magnetically complex sunspots, but I suspect the one that's rising here has perhaps some deltas, or it's beta gamma class, something like that. Here's our red light imagery that'll show you sunspots from what they would look like on your backyard telescope with a basic solar filter. That's red light, 677 nanometers. Red visible light, folks, from El Teide, Spain. The Canary Islands, that is. And really? The hydrogen alpha data is pretty old here, but we'll look at El Teide. It's only 21 and a half minutes old, so not too bad. There are solar filaments. They show up as dark absorption features when they overlap the disk, and they show up as bright emission features when they are hanging off the edge. So, but no new ones have launched in Earth's direction. And it's quite calm here despite a little uptick recently in sunspots. We can expect sunspot number to continue to grow here as new sunspot regions rise on that eastern limb. By the way, make sure you follow us on X if you don't already, especially if you like to make fun of people who yell at clouds. You know, there are a lot of people out there who yell at fucking clouds, and that just pisses me off, because the people that are mad at clouds, they think that clouds are man-made. Like, with the exception of what comes out of a nuclear cooling tower and contrails, clouds are definitely not man-made. And 4,000-mile-long storm fronts are even less man-made. And hurricanes are even less man-made. So, you know, there are people that live in Ohio who look up at the sky and they see a pattern in the clouds, like wavy clouds, and they go, HAARP clouds. They think radio towers in Fairbanks, Alaska can control their weather. It's pretty pathetic. So anyway, there's a lot of lambasting of folks over there on X. So if you want to see the tweets, there is exclusive content there, quite a bit. The Milan Husk Echo Chamber. I think HAARP technology is perfect. It's designed to make a tiny little spot above the radio towers in Fairbanks, Alaska, to excite the ionosphere, the D layer of the ionosphere, so a radio signal can be bounced off of it. That's what it does, and that's all it does. It's not weather control. No weather occurs in the ionosphere. That's in space. So it has to be attuned so the radio waves make it all the way to the ionosphere undisturbed. Otherwise, they would not be able to affect the ionosphere thusly. And so that's what I think of HAARP technology. It's not weather mod, because the ionosphere is not weather. Weather occurs in the troposphere, and that's it. Like 100 kilometers lower than the ionosphere. So that's what I think of HAARP. It is a very successful experiment, and it hasn't been running since November, and it's in Fairbanks, Alaska. So there's that. The Earth is very big, and this is something that people really don't understand. They don't understand the size and scale of the planet. I don't know why, because you think they'd be able to zoom into a map and look at their tiny little, their residence, and then zoom out and zoom out and zoom out forever. But no, people look at a 2,000-mile long weather front and they say, "Look, it's man-made. Nexrad. 5G towers made the hurricane do a thing." It's truly pathetic, and it demonstrates a really ridiculous inability to pass junior high physics by everybody who is in the Dane Wigington chemtrail cult. I mean, is it not disturbing that there are people that are mad at natural clouds? Who the hell goes out, sees a natural cloud, and goes, "Oh, it's man-made. There's chemicals raining down on me." It's bonkers. I mean, if I was that neurotic, I swear I would just go live in a bunker for real. Like I would just go in a bunker and never come out, and I guess I would lose my vision or something. Like, what the hell? You think natural clouds are man-made, dude? Like, what the hell, man? It's disturbing, disturbing. But I digress. Electron storm conditions continue. We'll get bad GPS performance here. So this is going to simmer down here, assuming no new space weather comes in the next couple of days. But for now, expect bad GPS performance. Here's our couple thermosphere, ionosphere, plasmasphere, electrodynamics, total electron content forecast model. And that's going to show, that's a mouthful, right? And that's going to show you where the GPS errors will happen. Let me address the comments here because there are some questions. Is your degree in astronomy? No, my degree is not in astronomy. I don't have a degree. This channel is a gem. Thank you. You only use LinkedIn? Well, we're on LinkedIn, so look for us over there. There are exclusive posts over there on LinkedIn. In fact, we use it for networking for business as well. So if you're running a small business, you may be able to advertise both on the channel and on cycling jerseys this year. So there's a unique opportunity for advertisers to actually be on my cycling kits. I'll be racing the track a bit this year, doing timed events, and I'm able to go all the way to national championships. I'm already spec'd for that. I have the right categories and licensure and all that sort of stuff. So yeah, it's LinkedIn. We are definitely on LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, and X. Otherwise known to sane people as Twitter. We try to call it Twitter. What are we talking about here, Unk? How many miles around circumference of Earth? Is it 28,000? I don't know. I don't memorize stuff like that. To quote Einstein, never memorize something you can look up. You have the internet, so just look that up. Yeah, dude. I mean, if you have ads, if you want your ads on the channel, we don't have any paid affiliates at the moment. We have like value chain partners that are in the link where we get paid commissions. So the links in the description, like the Amazon shop, the Redbubble shop, those are paid promotions. Okay. Like if you buy stuff at the Redbubble shop, and you should before spring hits, because we have to raise all of the prices there. We're doing a blanket price raise of 10, 15, maybe even 20%, because the markups are horrendous and the stuff is cheap and extremely high quality. So yeah, we've like no conflict of interest available right now. Like I don't have an employer who's going to get mad if I advertise this or that. I'm a completely free entity right now, and we can guarantee that your affiliates get a certain number of views because we will boost those videos. Like the videos that have their ads, we will pay to boost those videos using AdSense. So we run a number of businesses. I don't have an employer at the moment. And yeah, I mean, I'm self-employed more or less. It is possible to get me to do a part-time gig position, or even a 9 to 5 if it's good enough. I'm also a licensed insurance agent in about 8 states. So there's a lot of stuff going on. I'm probably going to race for an insurance brokerage. There's an insurance brokerage called Kelly Benefits, and they have both an elite and a club cycling team. And I'm somewhere at the lower level elite, upper level club cycling team level. So, but we spend most of our season not racing. So we're only required to wear race kits if we're designating that team as the team we're affiliated with at that race. So privateers like me who don't have annual pro cycling contracts, everything is piecemeal. So there are a number of charity events that we'll be doing. There's a 24-hour race that happens on the solstice. So June 20th to June 21st, from noon to noon, 20th to 21st. The solstice happens at 10:39 a.m., I think, on the 21st. So there's a 24-hour race at the local cycling park. And then the next weekend, after summer starts, there's a 12-hour race. So two cycling ultras, back-to-back weekends, a 24-hour and a 12-hour race. So yeah, it's going to be a crazy, crazy season. And yeah, there's space is going to go fast on my kit, and right now there's nothing on it. So yeah, follow us on X. You can find us on LinkedIn, and yeah. So I'm located in Lehigh Valley, Pennsylvania, which is a massive cycling mecca. We have thousands of top level riders around, and every year we get world class riders, World Cup events and things. And there's a very famous track here called thevelodrome.com, the Valley Preferred Cycling Center. And you know, I ride for the biggest club in the valley too. So we're called the Lehigh Valley Cycling Club. I'm actually planning to become their VP of marketing too. So they're going to create a new office because they need marketing. They need somebody to do their social media and stuff like that. You know, create their YouTube channel, create their Instagram, and they need somebody who knows what we're doing to you know, take up all those roles, because they need a LinkedIn and an Instagram, and I think they already have a Facebook, but you know, the average age of that club is like 67 years old. Of course, there are junior racers in the club as well, but it's the sport is expensive, so you know that drives some things. Hey man, yeah, thanks. Just drop me a line and we'll talk later or something. But yeah, here's the radio blackout forecast, and the likelihood of radio blackouts is a little bit higher now because we do have that active region rising on the east, and you can see a little bit of radio attenuation happening there as the D region is attenuated. And this is what HAARP does, by the way. That HAARP does this on purpose in a very, very small portion of the ionosphere to bounce a radio signal. So this is what we're talking about, the D layer of the ionosphere. This is this lowest layer. This is where space starts, folks. Okay, so this is space. And the reason that is because below this we have mostly neutral particles, and above this we have mostly ions. So, you know, that's why it's the ionosphere. Below this is the mesosphere, and then the stratosphere, and then the troposphere. That's where weather happens. You could make the argument that weather happens in the stratosphere, but that's primarily ozone. And while clouds do intrude into the stratosphere, that's not really weather. You're talking like 50,000 feet of altitude there. So next we'll look at the ionosphere here briefly. Let's see, the previous day, 1 hour per second. And the anomalygram, let me just load those up for you here so you can see what the ionosphere looks like dynamically. So here it is in vibrational frequency. It's showing megahertz. And this is the F layer. So we've gone above the D layer now. So this is the D layer. This is the radio attenuation that happens in a D layer, which is denser than the F layer because it's at a lower altitude. So there's the D region. Here's the F region. In the daytime, it's F of F2 because there are multiple F regions, but at nighttime, it's just the F region. That's why it says F of F, FOF2 map. So that's from the Australian Government Bureau of Meteorology. Yeah, dude, if you want to be the marketing manager of the channel, that will be fantastic, because if we can just focus on content creation and bike riding and racing and all of that sort of stuff and bring in some affiliates, we can really get some coverage out there, and I can make this full time today. So yeah, that's what's going on in the ionosphere. And here's the anomalygram. This is anomaly in megahertz from a 30-day median. It's good at showing you where the South Atlantic anomaly is located, which is just off the west equatorial coast of South America. It shows you the African anomaly, a slightly weaker anomaly there, but this is the weakest point of Earth's magnetosphere, right in this sort of area here. And the fact that it's right on the equator is really not very scary at all. Keep in mind, Earth's magnetic field is affected by the substrate. So the field is generated internally, and as those field lines try to make it to the surface, they have to pass through substrate. And some of that substrate's magnetic, some of it's not. There are magma upwellings and iron deposits and all kinds of things that affect the way the magnetic field lines go. And looking at this gives you insight into what Earth's magnetic field is doing, because Earth's magnetic field is where the plasma goes, and where the plasma goes is how the ionosphere gets affected by the solar wind. And so this gives you sort of like deductive insight into what's going on with Earth's magnetic field in a great visual format. That's why we show it daily on the channel. I don't know why nobody else talks about how the South Atlantic anomaly is way the hell up here. Like, it used to be down here over the South American continent, and then it was out here in the South Atlantic, and now it's way up here in the East Pacific. So I don't hear anybody else talking about it. It's very strange, but whatever. It's probably because they don't understand the physics, and it's probably because it doesn't support their idiotic doomsday theories. It doesn't support their dumb thumbnails that say, oh, the world's ending today because look at this spooky thing that I don't understand the physics of. So there's that. Anyway, let's get to Earth weather here, because it's time to kick ass and take names. Wait, never mind. It's always that time. What am I saying? That's not news. All right. So let's bring up some Atlantic sunrise. Gotta have it. I mean, there you go. How you like them apples? As these lines straighten out and we approach the equinox, the sun's returning to the northern hemisphere. Thank God. It was a rough winter. If you haven't checked out the merch shop, there's a great merch shop from the Smash News Network, Least Busted Name in News. And like I was talking about that 24-hour race, there's the graphic for it, the 24 hours of Bob Rodale Park. So if you look up the Bob Rodale Cycling and Fitness Park, this is the graphic that I've made for it. And yeah, we're doing a 24-hour race this year on the summer solstice. So keep in mind, we're also raising prices at the Redbubble shop because the markup isn't big enough. The designs are too good. So if you want to pick up some merch, now would be a good time, because by spring, in fact, it could happen today, we're raising prices blanket across the entire site. So every item, and then we'll feature an item that's marked down, but at the moment, we're going to be marking everything up. Now, will I be able to ride for 24 hours straight on the Bob Rodale Park? Definitely not. I expect to have, I want to do an 18-hour ride. So I want to have 2 3-hour breaks of 6 hours, but ride for 18 hours. That's that's the plan. I'm going to have multiple bikes with me, but primarily I'm going to be riding a full-time trial rig. So I'll have the skin suit, the shoe covers, the TT helmet, because that stuff really matters when you're trying to put in like 200 miles in one day. We'll probably have like bands there. I suspect there'll be a couple of beer sponsors will show up, and a whole bunch of cycling specific sponsors, as well as local businesses, and of course charity organizations. Part of it will benefit the club, part of it will benefit the velodrome probably, because that's an entity that always needs funding. And then there'll probably be a couple other nonprofits that show up there. And, depending on how much infrastructure we get, it's gonna be interesting to say the least. And this will be the first 24-hour race ever at the Bob Rodale Cycling and Fitness Park. So yeah, but you can find other merch there, like Deadbeat World, or maybe you'd like to caption this. Thor looks down at smartphone, thinks, why are there so many idiots vocally proving how idiotic they are on social media? That's my caption. So yeah, anyway, let's get to some more Earth weather here while we are on the subject. Here is the U.S. water vapor map. When your Doppler radar is unclear, the water vapor map will deliver you if you understand basic atmospheric physics. If you don't, it's not going to help you. But Earth weather is super easy to forecast, folks, and you have more than enough data. If I can do it in Lehigh Valley, PA, where it's quite hard to forecast the weather, you can do it wherever you're located. Even if you're adjacent to a mountain range, there are ways to guess what will happen with the orographic lifting. Check it out, a bunch of moisture making its way across Pennsylvania as we've got some precip in our forecast. But yeah, that's what's going on with the water vapor map. Here is the Doppler radar. It depicts vertical motion of water droplets and ice crystals. Shout out to our viewers from the lower 48. Here's our forecast for Lehigh Valley, PA. High of 36 today. And then tonight, snow and freezing rain. Oh, wait. I'm sorry. Tomorrow, snow and freezing rain before 10 a.m. Then rain, snow, and freezing rain between 10 a.m. and 1 p.m. That sounds fun. If you drive and don't drink, and if you drink, don't drive. All right. Let me get to comments here. I see some comments, but first we'll put up something graphical. How about the pressure map? Well, there's your pressure map. You've got a huge anticyclone here, sort of oriented above Lake Ontario. You can see this clockwise rotation as high pressure systems, otherwise known as anticyclones, do in the northern hemisphere. They rotate the opposite way in the southern hemisphere. There's also one here just south of the Azores. Really, it's partially centered on the Azores there. There you go. There's another anticyclone there. The Azores, folks. Yeah, there's our U.S. pressure map for the lower 48. And let me get to these comments. Greetings, Retro Doomsday. How are you feeling? Melting polar ice and dengue fever will be kind of rough in the next 10 years. You are incorrect. Please provide something resembling evidence to back up this silly claim. Dengue fever is not going to just suddenly go up into the mid-Atlantic states, dude. That's not a thing. On ocean and biological systems, but we have plastic and love plastic. I even drink plastic when I'm not thirsty. Joy, I know, right? There's a little bit too much plastic in all of us. There's too much plastic in Antarctican ice. Did you know that? Yeah, there's plastic everywhere. It kind of sucks. But at least it's something folks are becoming aware of. And so I imagine there will be mitigation efforts for it, right? The good news is, folks, that everything keeps getting better, not worse. So while doomsday prophets just lie, our finest days lie ahead. And our finest days are going to continue to lie ahead, regardless of how many dum-dums forecast doomsday. Because you're not special. Our finest days lie ahead. Extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence. I would say prove me wrong, but I don't want to waste your fucking time or mine. So don't prove me wrong. Try to prove me wrong. I mean, I try to prove me wrong all the time. Every time I hear a ridiculous doomsday claim, I look into it and then I go, ew, this is based on imagination, not data. Actually, our nonstop plastic society does not melt polar ice. Why do you think plastic melts polar ice? That's definitely not a thing. How does plastic melt ice? That's not a thing, dude. It's just some dust that blows around all the way at the jet stream level. But it definitely doesn't melt polar ice. That's just a ridiculous thing. What physics would cause plastic to melt polar ice? It's just silly. Get serious, dude. We've got some lightning in the southwest Atlantic here, south of Bermuda. That's a real-time lightning map. Check it out. There's thunder rolling in if you're on a boat south of Bermuda. little bit of thunderstorm activity there. That's a global lightning map from lightningmaps.com. Keep in mind it does lightningmaps.org rather. Keep in mind it does not cover everything, but it might save a son of a bit turn just like you from getting struck. Please don't get struck by lightning, folks. I can't believe I got to say that, but this is YouTube. There are a lot of dummies on YouTube. So please don't get struck by lightning. Not to say that you're a dummy, but if you are one, definitely don't leave a comment and make it obvious that you are of below average intelligence. All right, so here is our snow map. We're looking at a GFS 72-hour accumulated positive snow depth change forecast in inches. As another nuisance snow makes its way across Pennsylvania, but it's going to melt fast. I don't even care. I don't even care. Let's finish out this video with some jet streams. There are the jet streams for all you Central World types. Shout out to our viewers from Europe, the Near East, and Africa. Hopefully, no bombs are falling on your schools today. Here are the surface wind patterns of the Central World. The Holy Lands and the Unholy Lands and the Dark Continent. And you get the idea. Here are the Western world's surface winds and the jet streams. We've got a triple jet stream over North America. If that scares you into getting into your bunker, more power to you. We hope your MREs are delicious. Jet streams of the East. Shout out to our viewers from this side of the planet, the most populous side of the planet, since it depicts both India and China, otherwise known as China. Surface winds of the East. Shout out to our viewers from all around the planet. If you're viewing from a different planet, universe, timeline, star system, spaceship, neutron star, plane of existence, dimension. If you think you're viewing from a simulation, that's just really silly and ridiculous. And we wish Elon Musk would shut up and stop talking about simulation theory. It's so stupid and idiotic and so pseudoscientific that I'm sick of hearing about it. Just like I'm sick of hearing about fully self-crashing cars. You know, every time I see a fucking Tesla on the road, I get a feeling of dread. A feeling of dread. Because it might be in fully self-crashing mode at the time. Which means if I'm in a car, it can probably see me. If I'm not in a car, it probably can't see me unless I'm emitting light. It's great at seeing lines painted on a road, and guess what it does when the lines aren't painted on the road? Fully self-crashing cars, folks. One of Elon Musk's many frauds. It's really irritating. There is more fraud right now than there are more fraud and more cultists. Do you think it might be related that Earth currently has more cultists than it's ever had in its history right now in 2026? We have more cultists and more fraud to the tune of trillions of dollars. More cultists and the most fraud ever in the history of mankind. Most per capita fraud, most per capita cultists. Prove me wrong. Just kidding. Don't prove me wrong because it's definitely objectively a fact. All right, now that I got that rant about cultists out of my system. God, there are so many cultists. It's extremely irritating. All right, let's put your comments back on the screen. I see a number of other comments here. JDWZ says we have only 100 years at most. I guess this is based on imagination as well. So the plastic oil industrial complex that makes all the plastic from extraction to disposal accelerate global temp rise, fueling Arctic warming at 3 times global average and releasing sooty black carbon. Just laying the facts down. Didn't know you were a science denier, lol. It sounds like you're a science denier. Have you ever looked at the geologic record? Do you know that Earth's average temperature for the last 30 million years is 12 degrees Celsius lower than it is today? I don't think you know what you're talking about, dude. Geologists don't lie because geologic strata doesn't lie. We know exactly how the global warming and colding process worked in the last ups and downs. We know exactly what happened. Greenland melted a bunch of fresh water into the North Atlantic, which shut down the AMOC, the Atlantic Meridional Overturning Circulation, which caused the Northern Hemisphere to freeze. It didn't cause the Southern Hemisphere to freeze, though. There are no global cataclysms. So anybody who's claiming that some spooky global cataclysm is going to happen, you might want to look at the CO2 record from what carbon dioxide was doing 33 million years ago. Did you know that Antarctic and ice sheets started to form when Earth was 3 degrees Celsius warmer on average than it is today? For the past 30 million years, Earth has been 12 degrees Celsius colder than it is today. A warmer planet's not dangerous. A colder planet causes the 8 billion people to be able to produce less food. So if you think I'm a science denier, I think you ought to try reading something about science. So, I mean, you just got absolutely lambasted, Retro Doomsday. You clearly have no clue what you're talking about. Look at the geologic record. Yeah, I'm a science denier. That's adorable, dude. Get serious and lay off the liquid LSD. So, anyway, here is where we will end with this lovely imagery from the GOES 19. And there's a massive crown prominence here. And it's actually still hanging out. There's this filament is kind of just crawling across the sun. Look at that. That's fantastic. I'm going to actually zoom in on that. Look at that. Check out this filament. It's going to be a massive prominence, and then it's going to kind of just roll across onto the far side of the sun. So up here, this filament right here, it's going to become a prominence, a crown prominence, which is a feature that we see around solar maximum the most. Ah, man, your grandson's bicycle was stolen. Do you have the serial? Do you have a description of it? Because people that steal bikes are very bad at stealing bikes. And we often get back bikes when they get stolen. Because what happens is the dummies that steal them, they ride them around in public. I went to the links. Yeah, we'll change the default settings, perhaps based on your recommendations. Thanks for the input. We'll look into it. We're always looking at changing simple things like that, like stuff in the description. So yeah, but yeah, look at this. Look at this insane filament here. It's absolutely massive. I mean, this thing is probably about 15 Earths just high, but then it turns into this massive prominence here, a great crown prominence. And then part of this is going to kind of, okay, that was earlier. So look at this plasma. It's just kind of, it's a prominence and then it kind of lays back down there, splashing back down toward the chromosphere. The transitional region below the solar corona and above the photosphere where sunspots occur. Take one more look at that awesome prominence that happened, and then we'll close this mother out before we get to an hour. Cheers, Retro Doomsday. Yeah, I understand why you've said what you've said. Climate. Unfortunately, here's a problem with climate forecasting. All right, and I'm going to present this in a way that is going to be hopefully unobjectionable, hopefully not too over the top. But here's the thing about climate forecasting. Have you ever seen a 1-week weather forecast? Let's say this. Have you ever seen an accurate 2-week weather forecast? I haven't. So, if we're unable to forecast the weather for 1 month from now with any degree of accuracy, how are we going to forecast how are we going to forecast the climate for the next 5, 10, 20, 30 years? I mean, you realize that Earth's heat budget, Earth's surface heat doesn't even lie in the atmosphere, it lies in the oceans. There are a lot of people that are lying about what the atmosphere does. The atmosphere is less than 1% of Earth's surface heat budget. Water has a really high latency of heat, and gas has a really low latency of heat. That's why the air can suddenly change temperature really fast, while ocean water does not change temperature really fast. This is why the winter stays cold well after the solstice. The sun is at its low point in the sky around December 20th for the Northern Hemisphere. Why does it keep getting colder? Because of the albedo effect and because of the cold ocean water that's circulating around. Everybody that lives near the coast is aware that their air temperature is a slave to the ocean's temperature. If you live on the island of Nantucket, even if you live on a peninsula, like Florida is largely governed by the ocean temperatures because it's a giant sandbar. Like literally, the coastal plain goes all the way to South Carolina. So the point is that the components of the atmosphere do not control the temperature or climate of the Northern Hemisphere. Also keep in mind that the Southern Hemisphere almost acts like a different planet, and the ice ages that are experienced in the Northern Hemisphere don't necessarily coincide with the Southern Hemisphere. The Southern Hemisphere is so different than the Northern Hemisphere that it's like a different world. The way the ocean currents circulate in the Southern Hemisphere is completely different than in the North. Because in the South, you have a circumpolar current that goes around Antarctica, and the climate is affected completely differently because of that. But the NAO seems to control the climate for the Northern Hemisphere. So there's also a thing called Milankovitch cycles. Those are like 100,000 year cycles. But each ice age lasts tens of thousands of years, folks. And these warm periods that we have like right now, these are what civilization were built upon. Because when it gets really cold, the population drops because humans can't produce enough food because cold is dangerous and warm is good for health and technology and for the advancement of the population and things like that. So the average temperature on Earth was 12 degrees Celsius cooler for the past tens of millions of years. So you see, there's a positive feedback mechanism with respect to Earth's climate, and that is the albedo effect. And guess what it does? Guess what the positive feedback mechanism does? It makes the planet colder, much colder. Because the albedo, if you get too much snow in the Northern Hemisphere, you will have a year without a summer because it will reflect so much sunlight back into space that you'll have glaciers that grow in June instead of shrink. That's a scary thing. Because if that happens year after year, you have a runaway albedo effect. It's called a positive feedback mechanism. For Earth's warming, we have a negative feedback mechanism for the Northern Hemisphere. In other words, if it gets too hot in the summertime, too much ice melts in Greenland and it shuts down the AMOC, which means global warming causes global colding. It is a negative feedback mechanism. The albedo effect is a positive feedback mechanism. So, in other words, the global warming causes the global colding, which causes the whole Northern Hemisphere to turn to ice. And it creates a mile-high glacier within sight. If I go outside and look at the Blue Mountain from where I'm located, the glacier ended right there. That's scary. It was 5,000 feet high. Boulder fields to prove it. So it also melted rapidly, which is also very scary because that probably created all the rivers and so on. So it's pretty serious. But yeah, warming has a negative feedback mechanism for the Northern Hemisphere, and cooling has a positive feedback mechanism, the albedo effect. So that's kind of important to understand as well. The albedo effect is sunlight being reflected back into space, especially the infrared portion of the solar spectra. Because when it's reflected back into space by white snow and ice, the planet doesn't get warmer. When it hits plain old water, dirt, grass, anything besides something white that reflects most of the infrared radiation back to space, it makes the planet warmer. The albedo effect makes the planet colder. Anyway, it's time to close this thing out. We will see you soon here at the Smash News Network, Least Busted Name in News. I've been your host, Dan, aka Smash on Mash, signing off. And until next time, may that solar wind be at your back.